Hey, I'm here. I'm here. Woo! It is I, Trev the Rev. I ain't no vicar. Welcome to the show. Welcome. Kachunga, my friends. Kachunga. Welcome to the show. Oh, yes, missus. And you go by the title of the show. It aliens, nuke Martians. That's confused you, isn't it? Well, you'll find out later. You'll find out later. We're going to start the show where we normally start the show with the old, if you'd like the show and you enjoyed what you've seen, please hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, and you'd like to see some more of my shows, please hit the subscribe. And most of all, you want to know when the shows are coming out, all you got to do is ring that bell. As the famous singer from the 70s used to sing, ring my bell, a rebel, yes, and all the rest of that bullshit. Yes. Welcome to the show. The cough always comes at the wrong possible time. God. Anyway, so we're going to start off with some puns. So the Pope is super early for his flight. He asks his driver on the way to the airport if he could drive around for a while because they have time to kill and he hasn't driven a car since becoming the Pope. I don't need to drive a car when you're a Pope, someone drives it for you. Naturally, he's a bit rusty. So he's driving poorly. Suddenly he sees police lights behind him. He pulls over, and when the officer comes up to the window, his eyes go wide. He says to the Pope, "Hang on a minute." He goes back to his car to radio the chief. "Chief, I have a situation. Pulled over an important figure." "How important?" the chief replied. "Governor or something?" "No, sir, he's bigger." "So what? A celebrity or something?" "More important, sir. A major politician." "No, sir, he's much more important." "Who is he?" "Well, I'm not so sure. The Pope's his driver." Oh, you didn't hear that, but Roz actually chuckled in the background. Roz, you know. I think I got a thumbs up for Roz on that one. Yeah, thumbs up. So, a Mormon and an Irishman are on a plane. The Mormon's seated next to the Irishman on a flight from London to the United States. After the plane was airborne, drink orders were taken. The Irishman asked for a whiskey, which was promptly brought and placed before him. The flight attendant then asked the Mormon if he would like a drink. He replied in disgust, "I'd rather be savagely raped by a dozen whores than let liquor touch my lips." The Irishman then handed his drink to the attendant and said, "Me too. I didn't know we had a choice." A man is walking through his local mall and notices the Mexican bookstore. He decides to go in because he's never seen a Mexican bookstore before. He browses through the store and finally asks the clerk, "Do you have the book on Donald Trump's foreign policies on Mexico?" The clerk replies, "Fuck you, get out and stay out." The man replies, "Yeah, that's the one." That's because his policies and stuff. Mexicans was like, well, it's funny. It's funny. You go ha 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 ha. But we'll do one more. One more joke. When NASA was preparing for the Apollo project, some of the training of the astronauts took place at Navajo Reservation, Indian Reservation. One day, a Navajo elder and his son were herding sheep and came across the space crew. The old man, who spoke only Navajo, asked a question that his son translated. "What are those guys in big suits doing?" "Hang on, that's the Indian, isn't it? So I've got to speak in Indian talk. Hang on. What are those guys in those big suits doing?" How's that? A member of the crew said they were practicing for the trip to the moon. They got all excited and asked if he could send a message to the moon with the astronauts. Recognising a promotion opportunity, the NASA folks found a tape recorder. After the old man recorded his message, they asked his son to translate it. He refused. The NASA PR people brought the tape to the reservation with the rest of the tribe listened and laughed, but refused to translate the elder's message. Finally, the NASA crew called in an official government translator. His translation of the old man's message was, "Watch out for these guys. They come to steal your land." I didn't get much of a reaction on that one. I didn't get much reaction. She must have been.
Maybe paying attention to it.
It's funny. Because the English came to America, met the Indians, and stole their land. Now we're going to the moon. Anyway, we might be two today. So we are talking about aliens, Martians. The question is, was there a nuclear war on Mars in the past that killed everyone? So here's a Mars anomaly mystery for you. If you ever wanted one, it's Mars an example of what an all-out nuclear war could and would look like after a full-scale self-attack. Probably every person and nation on Mars at that time went haywire, and they just went hell for leather after it. All-out nuclear wars on Mars. So I tricked you, didn't I? Because she said, "What if aliens nuked Mars?" I don't mean that Mars. Mars a day helps you all the day. Yeah. Well, where's the proof of a nuclear war on Mars? I hear you, nutter. Go on, I can hear you through this earphone. I can hear you muttering, "Where's the proof?" Well, how the bloody hell could we know all this stuff? Way out for the distant future, from another planet. Here on Earth, and to boot, where, if any, is the TV satellites orbiting Mars, which should be right there, right now, right here, right now, right there, right now. If the intelligent civilization living on Mars is the long, very distant ancient past, yeah. Let's not lose the sight of the facts here that they must have been capable of creating a nuclear weapon, right? But here's another question for you or anyone. Where's the wreckage? Where's the mutated radiation-filled trees? Where's that everything that probably should still be there after such a horrific encounter between two or more alien people and aliens invading Mars? Could be an accidental chain reaction of a set of events that actually wiped out the Martians. I know it sounds like I'm stuck on an unproven idea that Martians definitely once lived on Mars. Well, that's the question. If Martians didn't live on Mars, would we still call them Martians? That's another question for you, isn't it? That's another question for you. That's when I think people existed on Mars. I think there was long enough for stuff, and maybe even the leftovers of the nuclear extinction of the war, to petrify. Everything petrified and turned to dust end up. It would explain a lot, but I'm not a scientist, and I don't know if it's even possible. I found an online story about this very subject and dove right into it, which is what I'm now reading now. And now I'm bringing your eyeballs to this story. It's the stuff I'll be going into by a scientist called Dr. John Brandenburg. He believed that an old Martian civilization was wiped from the face of Mars in the distant past. He has a PhD in theoretical plasma physics from the United University of California, and he was currently working on plasma physicists at Orbital Technologies in Madison, Wisconsin. According to Dr. John Brandenburg, there is enough evidence to prove that at least two major nuclear blasts went off on the surface of the red planet in the distant past. The theory proposed by Dr. Brandenburg is based on traces of uranium and thorium. No, thorium isn't the son of Odinium. Odinium. It's got a brother called Lokium. So, they have been resting on the surface of Mars. Martian civilization was wiped out by another hostile radiant race from elsewhere in the universe. He warns that our civilization could face the same fate. After studying the Red Planet for decades, scientists admit there's a great possibility that an impact of an asteroid or comet altered the fate of the Red Planet. Now, given the traces of radioactive element on the surface of the Red Planet, researchers believe that a nuclear blast might have changed the fate of the Red Planet forever. According to Dr. Brandenburg, ancient Martians known as Sidonians, you can't call them Martians, they're Sidonians. There you go. And Utopians were massacred in the giant nuclear attack, and evidence of the genocide can still be seen today. Scientists believe they found powerful evidence of lost civilizations on the Red Planet. And in fact, they believe they may have discovered a nuclear signature in the Martian atmosphere that matches that of Earth after a nuclear test. According to scientists, there are very large traces of xenon-129 on Mars. And the only process that we know that produces xenon-129 is a nuclear explosion. The xenon isotope mass from Mars is nearly identical to that found on Earth. This is one of the main factors that has led researchers like Brandenburg to suggest that Mars had a developed civilization in the distant past. And this civilization had a terrible and cruel ending. In a TV interview, Dr. Brandenburg stated, 2 great disasters happened on Mars. He told Supreme Master TV, pointing to Utopia along the map. One here, and then an astronaut impact happened there. That's puzzling. Why would so many bad things happen in one area of Mars that just so happens to have archaeology on it? You weren't meant to find it. It was supposed to be destroyed. There you go. According to Brandenburg, the high concentration of xenon-129 atmosphere, evidence from Crypto-80, and the detected pattern of excess abundance of uranium and thorium, there's thorium with this hammer again, on Mars surface, relative to Mars meteorites first seen by the Russian and now confirmed by the Mars Odyssey spacecraft gamma ray spectrometer, which means that the surface of Mars, the chocolate bar. No, the surface of Mars was apparently the size of a massive radiological event, which created large amounts of signature isotopes and covered the surface with a thin layer of radioactive debris enriched in certain elements relative to its subsurface rocks. This pattern of phenomenon can be explained as due to 2 large anomalous nuclear explosions on Mars in the past. Dr. Brandenburg also says his theory could explain the Fermi paradox, namely why, if the universe is abundant with life, we haven't heard anything from anyone yet. So there you go. Aliens nuke Mars. Well, you tell me what you think. Leave me some comments and tell me what you think. Now, we have time for a second subject. We are going from space to zoology. No, cryptology. There you go. Cryptology. Myths and monsters that could exist. We are talking about, first there was a man who was bitten by a radioactive spider and became Spider-Man. Then there was a man who went nuts and put on a bat costume and became Batman. I'm talking about Mothman, the man who can't go too near a light bulb. Mothman, fact or fiction? Fact or fiction? Fact, fiction, fiction, fact. The Mothman was first sighted sometime around 1966 in West Virginia. The creature is said to partially resemble a man, a moth, and a bat. There shouldn't be Moth Batman. or Batman. The creature can fly without a problem, and the sight of it alone is enough to strike fear in anyone. In the past few decades, sightings of the Mothman or flying cryptid-like creature has been on the rise. Most in the Midwest around Chicago, northern Indiana, and lower Michigan. There have been a lot of reports from this flying cryptid in and around the downtown area. Downtown, downtown, downtown. Some say Mothman is connected to aliens or interdimensional beings. Could it be some type of creature that we haven't still been able to classify? There are those that say because of its size and features, it's not nocturnal. If it's flying a lot, we wouldn't be able to see it in the skies at night. The story of the Mothman, a legendary creature that terrorized a West Virginia town in the 1960s, separating the fact from fiction behind the Mothman, possibly the creepiest folk legend in American history, Stephen Baxter drew a picture of the Mothman at Point Pleasant. Point Pleasant is right. This would become the very first reported sighting of what could become known as the Mothman, an elusive creature when dice turns to dust. An elusive creature that, although they're widely celebrated by the town, it once terrorised, remained as mysterious, as it was on the night that the few frightened witnesses first laid eyes on it. Mothman can still be seen in Point Pleasant, West Virginia today, in the form of a historical museum, open 7 days a week, and also a 12-foot tall chrome statue complete with massive steel wings and ruby red eyes. The Mothman Prophecies is a major motion film, loosely based on the 1975 book of the same name by John Keel, according to Georgian newspaper Sibnevya. It claims that the Mothman sighting in Moscow foreshadowed the 1999 Russian apartment bombings. On November the 15th, 1966, 4 individuals, 2 married couples, were at once essentially Lovers Lane in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, explains Coleman, who's been researching the so-called 14 phenomena from Charlesport since 1960. These 2 couples saw 2 giant red eyes. Ooh. And it very much scared them. Ooh. They didn't know what to make of it. Ooh. This then was the first reported sightings of the Mothman, which Coleman goes on to say was described as 6 to 7 feet tall, with red eyes and no head. As if the eyes were in the breast area, with huge wings. The creature came towards them. They took off, and the creature followed them right up to the city limits of Point Pleasant. The incident was reported to the local sheriff, who went to the Lovers Lane and searched around, seeing a puff of smoke in a nearby area, or possibly the creature taking off and landing again. I don't know why, but the second I try to do something wrong, talking to the camera, my mind starts me yawning. I don't know why. I'm not tired. It's just like, oh, and I've got to fight the yawn. About a month after the initial sighting, John Keel got an assignment to go there as a news reporter. Explained Coleman. He sort of showed up, has a very low kind of profile. John was on a contract to write a book about UFOs. As Keel began to talk to people and gather information, the journalist found himself getting more deeply involved in the event, to the extent that there were entities that were communicating with John by phone. Coleman explained that as Keel analysed the events, he found Point Pleasant to be a vortex of phenomena and couldn't really tell one from the other. It was a scary situation for John, the Piper's son. Everyone thinks of the validity of Keel's claims. There's no arguing the horror of what happened next. Keel had begun to be given prophecies by the entities he was dealing with. One in particular that said, when President Johnson turned on the Christmas lights at the White House, The whole northeast was going to go into a blackout. However, by that point, Coleman said that Kill had started to get fooled by the phenomenon. On December the 15th, John Kill is in his apartment in Manhattan. Coleman continues, waiting for the blackout with his bottled water and his batteries. Nothing happens. About 6 minutes later, on the TV set across the bottom, the bridge collapses across Ohio River, and he just freaks out. Kind of freaked out because the bridge in question was the Silver Bridge, which crossed the Ohio River between Gallipolis, Ohio, and you guessed it, Point Pleasant, West Virginia. 67 people fell into the river, 46 died. They found 44 bodies, says Coleman. Several people who died were related to witnesses of the Mothman. Collapse of the Silver Bridge had been seen at the climax of Peel's Mothman experience, but Coleman is quick to say, I don't think it stopped. What I think is that it continued on, but some people do not report it. It never got to the fever pitch of, let's say, Roswell. John Keel published his account of these events in 1975. Interestingly, until Coleman's upcoming book, Keel had been the only book that had ever been with chapters and mentioned. Well, there's never been a movie or documentary. Mothman is a case that's almost been too scary for people to get close to. At the time, everyone knew about Mothman, but it was so bizarre no one could characterize it. And apparently neither does the upcoming film version, of which Coleman has been seen with footage as well as consulting with the director. My understanding is that the Mothman is described and talked about, but not seen in the movie. He says, I don't know. It's 95% done, and they can always change their mind. As discussion comes back to the movie, a natural question comes up. Does this kind of exposure help or hurt the work done by Coleman, who considers himself as an investigative reporter, who comes into these things very skeptically? After all, this relatively obscure film is about to become very famous due to the film. Does Coleman worry that the movie will encourage a rash of Mothman sightings or hoaxes? I'm a professor of documentary film back in Poland, and a lot of my work deals with behaviour contagion and the media effect. So that a very interesting question to me, explains Coleman. After Close Encounters of the Third Kind came out, everyone was predicting that we'd have this rush of fake UFO reports and all of that. It didn't happen. What happened is that people get more interested in the subject. They have old reports where they're seeing things, they talk about it. Those interested in Mothman, the film's official website is up and running, presenting a detailed chronology of the events in Point Pleasant. Also, Coleman himself calls the website Cryptozoologist, which has information on its own research into the Mothman and other paranoia. So there you go. Get two today. Get two today for the price of one. And there is no price because this show is free. Oh, yes, Mrs. Yes, Mrs. So on that note, it's time for the show to end. Oh, no. Oh. And I say my usual words of consideration. If you've enjoyed the show, again, please hit that like button. Hitting that like button is a simple thing, but it gets me noticed a bit more. And if you want to see my shows and you're not a member already, please subscribe to the channel and ring that bell when you want to be told when it's coming out. So please, this is Trev the Rev, no Vicar, signing off. Keep it up, my friends. Until next time. Bye-bye.